Hello, hello, and welcome to another edition of the Deep Edge Podcast. I'm your host, Ray Mota from ACG Research, and welcome. One of the things about this particular podcast is we're fortunate enough to have Samir Marwaha, who's Chief Solution Officer for Sandvine. And for this particular podcast, we're going to go deep into the discussions related to a report by Sandvine that's called the Global Internet Phenomena Report. And it touches on some of the things that are related to how applications are being impacted. So let's get this started. Hey, Samir, welcome to the Deep Edge Podcast. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, Ray. It's good to be here.
Awesome. Well, it's an honor to have you in this. Maybe for our audience, maybe if we can get started, Samir, telling us a little bit about your role at Sandvine and a little bit about what Sandvine does and who they are and who their customers are.
Sure. I'm Chief Solutions Officer at Sandvine, and my scope of responsibilities is strategy, it's corporate marketing, it's solution and product management. And essentially what Sandvine does, and it has played a crucial role, Ray, which is giving essentially light to what's today become completely dark. Our internet has gone completely dark as OTT providers have decided to encrypt all the applications going through the networks. And subscribers really perceive their telco from the lens of what experience they're having when they're immersed in their favorite applications 7 to 10 hours a day. So the expectations of usage of those applications is high, but at the same time, telcos are blind to what applications are going through their networks. So what Sandvine does is it gives them visibility on what applications are going, what content is going through their network, and what is the quality of that content. So that's essentially what we do, and we help our targeted personas in telcos, whether it's operations, planning, big data teams, or CTOs, with this application QoE information. And essentially, we are an APPQOE company.
Yeah, no, I think this is good because I like the fact that you just dove right into it. And maybe one of the parts is talking about related to privacy concerns, because when you talk about, what are the effects of this increased privacy concern when you look at encryption and when people want network visibility for operators, I mean, how do you address some of those when you get involved with a customer there?
Sure. And there's many angles to this, Ray, in the sense, yes, there's GDPR requirements, there's requirements elsewhere in the world, including here in California, there's strictest requirements in Germany. And all those are really around privacy of the data to not be leaked in absence of subscribers' consent. So we are essentially giving the operators data to help analyze, optimize, and monetize their networks. It's purely for service provider within their own network and targeted to specific personas on who has visibility into what. Anything else, including our GIPR report, Global Internet Phenomena Report that just came out, uses completely anonymized and aggregated data. So we are highly sensitive to privacy concerns. We only look at information that's aggregated and anonymized. And within the service provider domain, they only use that information to solve a subscriber problem. Let's say if a subscriber calls in and says, hey, my Netflix is buffering, we only give them that relevant information to go fix that problem. If a planner says, hey, I need to spend CapEx to add more nodes out in the network to carry all this traffic, well, we only give them APPQOE information targeted to that location. So we're extremely sensitive to what data is even stored in the databases and what data is made available to target personas.
Yeah, no, this is good because I think from that area, when you talk about time to remediation, one of the key components is having visibility, right, into these areas. So thanks for addressing that concern. Now you talked about the report that I called there, right? Is it fair to assume that if we look, Samir, at the new workforce, remote workforce is actually now going back to work? We see schools and stuff going back to work. Are you seeing a decrease in traffic at all because of that? And are we going to any what we call pre-COVID pandemic levels at all?
Well, on the contrary, Ray, what we're seeing is that the overall traffic is going up. So we've seen year over year, the traffic has gone up 23%. and even higher if you look at the video traffic percentage.
Mm,
But what we have seen shift in with people going back to work and to school is the traffic mix, which is the types of applications that are used during the day and based on different times of day are different.
mm,
We see last report we talked about Big Six being about 67% of the traffic, right? Now Big Six are about half the traffic because other applications have come up. There's some very interesting trends we're seeing post-pandemic when people are normalizing their lives back to the new normal, but the new normal still is that they're not giving up on telehealth, or they're not giving up on entertainment. So a lot of these applications, online shopping, Amazon Prime, all these things have actually gone up even post-pandemic.
Yeah, no, that's good. So you're basically also saying that there's been a new adoption of newer application because of the use of that, right? So whether it's retailing and other applications to address this flexibility. Now that's a good point, because when we saw the pandemic, people had to continue business continuity, and having some of these e-commerce more enhanced, it's a good point. Now, one of the things you touched on is some of the increase in traffic is these number of new apps, right? When we look at these apps, right? How has these number of new apps and their complexity and the time spent of what we saw before have changed to now?
Yeah, so the time spent has actually gone up. If you look at both the work apps and entertainment and gaming and telehealth and online shopping, so the amount of time has steadily increased. We're seeing even 7 to 10 hours a day average globally, which is very high. You brought up complexity. The complexity of apps is just extremely high right now, and the reason is everybody's building their own ecosystem of apps, and each app has gone through a different flows. For example, the same app has messaging, it has voice, it has video, it has payments. So you look at one individual app, could be Skype, could be Netflix, any of those have multiple content flows in it, and they're using encryption on an ongoing basis to encrypt this traffic. Even we associate Netflix with just video streaming, but they're come out with gaming platforms. So now it's not sufficient to look at, hey, this traffic is Hulu, or this is Netflix, or this is Uber. You really have to go much deeper into it to determine what type of content is it, voice, video, data, and so you can look at looking at the subscribers and what quality they're experiencing. As a subscriber, the quality I would feel when I'm playing a game versus the quality I would feel when I'm streaming video are very different. And the service providers have no option but to look at that level and see what kind of quality they're offering to their subscribers.
Right. Yeah. No, I am seeing more and more of these applications and these apps create this equal environment where they're bringing best of breed in voice and video and combining it to be able to offer better experience to the customer, but also time to market. But it creates a level of complexity potentially, right? And this is why the part of visibility becomes an important part. Now, when we look at some of these apps, right? I mean, it's interesting because how would you say, how have we become ingrained in our lifestyle with being so dependent on these apps?
So our lifestyle is, you look at the different demographics, and we're seeing younger kids behaving a lot differently than people of our age, right? And it's really they switch much faster between the app provider, they switch much faster between the telco provider. Their attention span is a little bit smaller. So one of the biggest trends we saw, and it comes out in our report, is the prevalence of short video. The short video content is really increased, and TikTok, which was nowhere in our top categories over the last few years, is now suddenly a big part of our top 10. Okay, and to follow them, almost every other big app provider is coming up with a short video platform to compete with TikTok and others. So that is one of the things that we've seen based on demographics and usage in this report.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I mean, maybe just real quick add on to that is what role has video played in the functionalities, and how's that had an impact in some of this traffic growth?
Yeah, so if you look at video overall, it's about 65% of the traffic now.
65.
Yeah, so it has gone up significantly. If you look at just mobile networks, it's 67% of the traffic. So yeah, it has not whether it's video on its own, whether it's security cameras, whether it's facial recognition, whether it's social media video, whether it's a video on broadband or TV type video or live TV or streaming, you name it, right? It is in pretty much everywhere as we interact with each other and person to person or one to many interactions over telco networks. Video has really become and we've saying that for several years that we're seeing growth, but now it's at a point that almost all the traffic is becoming video.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's funny because you touched on people our age and new habits, because in our household we have about 5 different teenagers, and when I say teenagers, that means even in their 20s. And we spent all this time and money of getting Samir all these TVs in these different types of room, and what I notice is these kids will have the TV on, right? But then they have their phone in front of them looking at something else. Right. So here we are, me and my wife watching a movie, and they all have their phones out. So that whole concept, it's changed somewhat, from that point of view, because they want to be able to get that short burst of video for that. But one of the things is related to how has what we call, because if you look at what these kids are doing, they're cutting the cord, right? How has cord cutting changing entertainment habits, and how do they impact this video streaming, especially when you look at control traffic and stuff like that?
Yeah, so cord cutting has had a significant impact, and of course, when we look at video usage, particularly with the younger demographics, they're on their phones and tablets, right? They're hardly ever in front of desktops or in front of TV screens. So yeah, Wi-Fi networks obviously have seen more traffic, but cord cutting has been a significant phenomena, and we do see the impact of that, right? And if you look at from telco's angle, by nature, wireless networks, fixed wireless access networks, HFC networks, by nature, they have congestion. And they're limited inherently through its spectrum or other means. And even if you have fiber today, if you're a fixed line carrier, fiber is not really going to home in many cases across the globe, right? It's going to some point of presence and then goes to homes. So there's inherent congestion, and that really got worse with cord cutting. And that's why we see a lot of service providers having to carry all this traffic, but at the same time, they cannot continue to throw more CapEx at it. And that's the impact we're seeing, that, okay, you can't really solve every problem by just continuing to add capacity. At some point, nobody has unlimited resources, both the financial and the human resources. So at some point, you have to really see, am I running things efficiently? Right. Am I able to cut my CapEx and OpEx, but still provide better quality of experience to my end subscribers? Right. And that's where we bring a lot of value in, is to enable them to see app quality of experience for the subscribers before you throw more money. And don't plan based on tonnage, as we say, plan based on what the subscriber's experience will be. Yeah,
no, that's a good point to relate, especially to the whole CapEx concerns and just trying to throw a bigger pipe at this solution, especially with some of these uncertainties globally. I think it's a valid point. Maybe, Samir, we can close with, you recently wrote a blog that I really liked a lot. I don't know if I'm going to get the title right, but I think it was called "It's an Application World, but We Can't Just Live in It." Did I get that correct?
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
good.
right.
Well, you touched on some of these key points, and maybe if you could close off by touching on some of the key highlights. And for the audience, I'll include the link of Samir's blog so they can read it in more detail there as well.
Yeah, thanks, Ray. Essentially, what I'm trying to say there is, there's about now 6 million apps going through telco networks. And this is just looking at Google Store and Apple Store applications, right? And when you have that kind of complexity and that kind of variation of traffic going through your networks, and when you know almost 100% of it is encrypted and you're flying blind, that's what I mean, that this whole apps world, the whole app economy that's evolving, you can't just sit there and try to live in it. You have to be proactive. You can't just throw money at it. You can't just ignore it. You have to analyze it. You have to optimize your networks to carry this type of unique traffic and measure QoE on it. And then you want to monetize it. You can't just let everybody else be the beneficiary of this traffic. You as a telco have to monetize it as well. So that's kind of what I'm trying to bring out, is that the world has changed. It is an app-based economy, and let's not just try to live in it, but let's try to live in it well by proactively addressing this type of traffic.
Yeah, no, it's very well done, and I love the fact that you're able to take some of these technical things and elevate. Hey, this is a potential impact on your business, right? So, and the potential business value. Well, Samir, you're officially off the podcast. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully, you'll be able to join us in the future.
Absolutely, it's been a pleasure, Ray. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you.